Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So, that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today I'm talking with Rainie Oet. Rainie is the author of the picture books Robin's World and Monster Seek, and she's here today to talk about her powerful and emotional debut middle grade novel, Glitch Girl. This is a lyrical novel in verse that places transness and neurodiversity front and center. Let me tell you, listeners, it's going to go straight to that place in your heart that needs it the most. This is a book for middle grade readers, but I think it should be required reading for any adult wanting or needing to move through the world with a bit more understanding. I have a feeling this is going to be a wonderful conversation, and I can't wait to dive into all of it. So let's get to it. Rainie, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. Um, this is not your first book, but it is your middle grade debut. And I always have a special place in my heart for debut books and being so grateful to share in the launch of it into the world. And I have so much love for this book that I can't wait to talk with you about. But before we do, I, of course, want you to start with you. And I'm hoping you'll give us a little bit of your background, what you do, and how you found your way to children's literature and your picture books and now this debut.
Yeah, of course. So I began as a poet. Um, I have been interested in stories and poetry and their intersection for a very long time. I, um, yeah, came to poetry when I was in high school and found it a really life-changing practice as it allowed me to both process and think through feelings and thoughts about the world myself at the same time as it allowed me to make things of those processings. Being able to communicate that experience with other people was an addictive feeling and something that um, like, as soon as I started doing it, felt extremely compelled by and wanted to make it a life pursuit. So I came to KidWit through poetry specifically. I've published three other books of poetry collections geared at adult audiences, though they're for everybody. And um, my agent found me through one of those collections, asked me if I would consider writing for kids, which I had not thought of doing, but was very felt very resonant at the idea of doing. Kidslit has always been really important to me growing up and as an adult as well. The honesty and like freshness in that kind of writing feels like yes, this is writing geared for kids, but it's absolutely writing for adults as well. I found those modes inspiring the poetry I was doing before I started doing KidWit, and now find that poetry that I was doing informing the kidslit work that I'm doing.
Yeah. So how did you get into, well, we know poetry was your entry point. how did Robin's World and Monster Seek come to be?
Both of those started as poems.
They did.
Yeah, Robin's World specifically started as a poem, and I have always really enjoyed poetic narrative, whether it's like one poem that tells a story or my other collections, I would consider like a short memoir essay or short novel in verse or short story in verse. I Yeah, originally Robin's Worlds was a poem that I turned into a short story and then turned back into a poem to make into a picture book. Monster Seek had the same thing going on. One of the things that I adore about picture books is they are an opportunity for a writer, for a reader to take a long poem, stretch it out, add really immersive art and the whole like immersive experience of so few words on one page, turning the page, you get to fall into it. It is an amazing experience of like complete immersion and intimacy with a single poem.
Mhm. I would argue, though, that complete immersion and intimacy you also accomplished in a much longer Lich Girl. I think you
Thank you.
duplicated that picture book feel of how you literally can fall into that text and put it on every single page of this longer middle grade novel. So let's go there. Let's start talking about Glitch Girl. For those that haven't had a chance to read it, could you give us an overview of what the book is about? Even though I just teased it a tiny bit in the opening. And the inspiration behind moving from those picture books to such a powerful middle grade novel.
Yeah, Glitch Girl follows the story of a young trans girl named Jay, um, from the time she's 10 to the time she is 13, as it's first and foremost a coming of age story. Her coming into a sense of herself that feels um, like obviously she's just 13 at the end of the book. She's still growing up a lot after that, but there is a movement into a sense of ownership over herself. We start the book with her feeling like extremely jumbled up, a bunch of puzzle pieces, no puzzle
Mhm.
between her experience of ADHD and like uh, carceral experiences at school and home around ADHD and her like misbehavior to her confusion about her like assigned gender role and that the misalignment of that for her to a number of other aspects of her experience to at the end starting to get something that feels more cohesive for her, um, ending the book describing feeling like a garden that she's taking care of. I came to Butch Girl concurrently with the picture books. There are kind of two different directions that I moved from just starting with literary poetry. And Butch Girl was originally a poetry collection that I envisioned the same way that I envisioned the other ones that I published, shorter for adults. It was solely exploring the kind of intersection of this virtual space that Jay is really into, Coaster Boss, roller coaster park building game, and like adolescence, gender, neurodivergence. And it was more kind of just vibes and atmosphere before I suggested it to my agent as a potential work to expand into a novel for kids. And we're both extremely excited about that possibility. Then it was just a matter of like, I did my own immersive work as a writer on this, feeling into Jay's world, the characters there, fleshing them out, fleshing out the narrative arcs.
So let's give listeners I want to give listeners kind of a visual because the title is Glitch Girl. The cover is absolutely amazing. I love the cover. It truly kind of captures so many of the things that are moving around in the book. But the book itself does have that kind of game-like vibe in the format of it. So you have kind of that font and the block and the cursor. You know, it really does embrace that as a theme because that game that I'm a coaster. I'm missing the second game. It's falling out of my mind, but the coaster game really is a big part of Jay and how she works through a lot of
Mm.
things. Um, how I guess I'm wondering in the connection between the poetry and putting it all together, was that element always there? Was it always there in terms of Glitch Girl and that theme that's in it? Or is that something that for you, as you go from these smaller poems to this larger work, does that shift and change and just kind of come about in the process of creating it?
The game was the first idea. When this collection was just starting, when this collection was a single poem, it was the game. It was Coaster Boss. The you are absolutely right to pick up on that being the most central thing in this book. It's the place where Jay processes a lot of her like outside life feelings, a lot of her inside life feelings. Um, it's both an escape and a um, immersion into her own experience at the same time. Uh, it's a mirror and an alternate reality. Um, I think it functions for Jay a lot like poetry functioned for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good, that really is such a good analogy. It definitely made me, someone who never quite got into the gaming world as her children have or people around her have, it really made me look at it quite differently of what potential it actually holds for kids, what it could actually represent instead of just, oh, that's a game. Oh, that has that in it. Oh, we have to worry about our kids playing certain things and doing certain things. And it really was an eye opener for me of exactly that wasn't just a game, right? That was something that was actually helping Jay work through so much emotion, so much um, confusion, just all of the emotions that was the outlet. And so it didn't occur to me right now until right now of you saying
Mm.
that really is just Jay's form of working through this time of life and expressing it like poetry could be for you or something else could be for someone. And I definitely appreciated the games like that in a way that I know I wouldn't have until I read this.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think that the real power of this game for Jay, the power the games had for me when I was a kid, and that I imagine they have for a lot of people, is that games are an opportunity to experience autonomy and agency.
Mhm.
I mean, however old we are, but I think that they have a special power and value for children um, who are just like intrinsically so disempowered. Being able to have an outlet that's not just, a form of entertainment or escapism, but also a way to come to understand your ability to make decisions,
Mhm.
your ability to have free reign over something. That is an extremely precious kind of experience and one that was extremely formative for me. I think that, and this, ties into a lot of my like philosophy around KidLit, is like, I think it's really important to give kids the like trust to figure out how to be people. And like that's a thing that um I think, can be really, really important to give them space and trust for, whether it's like the books, books that we write for them, or like games that they play, or it was wonderful for me as a kid to have the experience of like getting to go walk in the woods by myself and like throw sticks at things and see how the different sticks sounded when they hit different objects. Like it made me touch some part of what it meant to be an individual person that was very important for me.
Mhm. And I think it's so easy, at least I think in my own experience, to forget just how important that autonomy and agency and independence is at this particular age level, because then you become a parent and you just worry about them all the time, and you forget that those spaces are so important in helping them
Mm.
figure out who they are and who they want to be. And it's just such a I'm so grateful for that perspective of games like that actually providing that for them. It helped me to better understand Jay for sure. And I've got to say, this is, for those that haven't read it, it is written in the first person. And so you are in Jay's mind, Jay's heart, Jay's body. I I don't have, I feel like I'm stumbling over my words because I feel like I don't have the right words yet to just fully describe how it felt to read this book, because I felt like I was no longer me. Like I truly felt like I was Jay. And I was feeling, oh my goodness, Rainey, I was feeling more than I think I have felt reading a book in a very, very long time, because you just put us inside of Jay in a way that I don't know how you did it. And I don't know how you do it, but I'm so grateful. I felt such a personal reaction to this book. Um, and I want readers to know, like, this is a book that you will literally sink into. And I mentioned in the opening, I feel like it'll just go to the place in everybody's heart who needs it, wherever they need it. It's that
Mm.
personal of a reading experience. And I feel like readers who find it, whether they relate to everything in the book or not, I think every reader has experienced at some point not knowing what was next for them, or feeling misunderstood, feeling invisible, feeling something. And I feel like this is going to speak to so many different readers on a number of different levels. And I just want to convey, somehow I haven't figured out how to do it yet, just just how immersive your book truly is.
Thank you so much for saying that. It makes me really happy to hear because, like, above anything else, my goal with this book specifically, and all my work in general, is to convey an experience of interiority.
Mhm.
Um, I want people reading this book to. There's a place near the end of the book where Jay says, "Do you also feel like your soul goes to infinity inside you?" And my goal is to get readers to the point where they agree with that.
Mhm. There are, speaking of lines, we're not on video, so I can't hold up my book and, well, I could to you, but there are sticky notes.
Mhm.
There are so many sticky notes and flags here over the lines that just made me stop and pause and stop and think, whether it's in the sections of the book where Jay's talking about interactions between teachers, between Jay and teachers, between Jay and Junie or Garrison or mom or dad. There are just so many different places where I truly just had to pause and kind of catch up with my emotions in the book. And there are so many lines that just made me stop and think of, who am I? Who,
Mhm.
whether it's the middle grade kid that's still alive in me who's connecting to Jay. There are just so many places I think for readers to stop and be given the opportunity to think of how they want to feel and how they want the world to see them. And I feel like that's just another layer that happens because we get so close to Jay.
Yeah, thank you. My a very strong feeling that people should uh, write, publish, read more books from like trans authors, trans perspectives. Like there is a, I think one of the really valuable things about this, and just in general, always advocate for reading like books from anybody, like quote unquote on the margins, is that like what it means to like write from that voice, to like live in that voice, is to like undergo a kind of constant process of realignment with who we are outside of what normal is. And I think that that's a perspective, and that's a kind of experience that applies not just to trans women, but anybody everywhere. Um, it is a part of growing up and part of being human for all people to separate how they're supposed to be from how they are.
And I think that's kind of a two-way gift. One, it's a gift for the reader to help the reader think about those things for themselves. But then the other side of that gift is understanding things that you couldn't technically understand in your own life because you're not in someone else's shoes. But here we are. We are literally in Jay's shoes and body and mind. And it gives us both. That's why I said in the introduction, I think this should be required reading just for humans, not middle grade readers alone,
Yeah,
but for humans because of what it offers readers and quite frankly, the world, if you read it and really sit with it.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, one of the most powerful things about books is it makes us bigger people, expands our horizons for who we are, and how we can understand the world. When you read like books like this, and you necessarily take on experiences and perspectives that are not yours. I feel like reading makes us more human.
I agree. I feel like there's no greater gift than a book that can help us just
Mm.
be in the world better.
Yeah,
And your book does that in the most beautiful, emotional, personal way. Truly,
thank you.
truly. It's I have a list in my notebook, and listeners, if you've listened to the podcast, you know about this list, but it's books that I've hugged.
Mm.
Your book, your book is one that I hugged to keep it close. When you think of people getting your book in their hands, whether they are middle grade readers or they are adults like me, what is your hope for this book? What is your hope for that interaction between the book and your readers?
Yeah, my hope, my dream is that, I guess, twofold. Like it's what the book gives them and what they give the book. I hope this book gives all of its readers something of, if not of like additional perspective or um, compassion for other people or for themselves. Like I hope it gives them inspiration around their own interiority and humanity. And I think books have the power to change people's lives. I That's my hope for this book, that's a power this book can enact. My hope for what readers give to this book is that kind of like openness, that I'm very, very happy to hear. Um, it seems it's been like very easy for you to give to this book. That like I'm reading it, stepping into Jay's world, and reading it like with Jay's world in mind. Um, I think that this is not. I hope that it is a readable book. I don't think it is a spiritually effortless book, and that it does ask for empathy from the reader, um, immersion into a perspective um, that either is your own or isn't. And if it isn't, um, I think that's what a reader can give to the experience, is that active openness.
Yes. And I feel like they can, right? They can choose that stance, but the way that you have written and conveyed it, it's in my opinion impossible not to.
Mm,
And that's a true gift. That is a true feat. And I plan to push this book into so many people's hands.
thank you.
Now, Glitch Girl is still pretty new, released in March, even though this episode is airing a little bit after that. Are there things that you're continuing to work on, other projects that you might be able to share before we sign off today?
Yeah, absolutely. I love writing for kids and consider myself a writer more than like an adult literary writer or a kids lit writer. Um, Two other things that are uh, in various stage of process. I have a completed poetry manuscript called Fast Fire that um, is about um, the speaker's elegy for a deceased twin sister who is revealed to be imaginary, who is then revealed to kind of have had a kind of very real life after all. Um, this uh, is very much a trans book of poems, but like all my work, I hope about a lot more than that. In terms of kids writing, I'm excited right now about a project that I am working on about a um, happy, silly slice of life trans kid summer camp. Um, and a picture book. Also, I have a couple picture books that I am um, that are under submission or that I'm working on. One about a mermaid who is um, in her culture when she kind of becomes an adolescent, she chooses a name. So it's her trying to figure out what her name is going to be. And then another book about a girl who has the ability to listen to flowers and hear the stories that they tell. And she writes those stories down and she's making a library out of all those stories.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I especially love that last one. That is piquing my interest. I wish listeners could see because you just lit right up talking about those new projects. So that's exciting. We can look forward to those. Where can listeners find you so that they can keep up with when those next projects might be coming? And of course, just connect with you over Glitch Girl.
Yeah, my website, rainieoet.com. And there's a contact page there. I love hearing from readers. Feel free to um, message me there. I'm on Goodreads as well and have Q&As there. I don't have anything else at the moment, although I may be starting a Substack.
I say do it. I love Substack. It's my new favorite platform for connecting with writers. I feel like it's got the best of social media without a lot of the negative of social media. So
Mm.
I vote for that. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today and talking to us about Glitch Girl. Such a powerful book, and I'm grateful and honored to be part of your launch with it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.